Bay intro.
You're welcome on Black Hot Fire Network. INNOSSETU Kampala, Uganda, with my colleague Africa Maria. I hope you guys have been doing good all day. For those that are on work, I hope you're doing good. And in Uganda, it is 11. It is 11 minutes past 8.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think you're doing good. If you're outside there watching us, for those that are watching us from Facebook, Twitter, and of course our YouTube channel. And by the way, whenever you watch us, don't forget to like our videos on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you like, and calling in more subscribers, of course, because whatever we discuss about, it is good and important for Africa
Yeah.
and for those people that are outside Africa.
Mm.
Yeah. Today, oh, what do you call it?
Tugendeyo mukwano.
Eh?
Tugendeyo.
Ekyokozeho kati nga waleseeko waizi Africa. Okay, mutandike.
So yeah, I also welcome you once again on our show tonight here on Black Hot Network. Today's topic is tribalism versus Africa's unity. Apparently, um, demand what do you need? Tribalism in Rwanda and unity. So yeah,
Abanje editing.
you take one. Now already did the editing. So tribalism is a very large, it's a very strong, you know, it's a very strong uh, fear and belief. I call it a belief because Africans categorize themselves. Africans categorize themselves under tribes. Africans respond to each other according to their specific tribes. Apparently, tribalism has so very much affected. Um, okay, you know where?
Huh?
Okay, whatever. So, baby, don't worry. So tribalism has affected Africans because it has clouded our judgment, our understanding, belief, and how we view things. I know somebody to find. So, it is very absurd and so painful that a lot of Africans actually identify themselves not Africans, but according to their grouped or specified tribes. So tribalism has had a very huge negative impact. As a matter of fact, it has also led to disunity because apparently we still have people who are scrambling and want to be partitioned to belong to a specific tribe or to a specific geographical area because they believe they belong to a certain tribe. We have seen these instances in various countries of Africa. There is a time where you had the Baganda people wanted federal, like they wanted to break away from Uganda and have their own, so I should say like their own geographical area where they take control of apparently everything. Now, for me, I feel like they are hypocrites because, first of all, they are the ones who invited these guys to come down. And they are the reason why Uganda was partitioned and named Uganda. Now, after all this struggle, now you are saying you want to be you and leave people at something that you began, of which I feel like it doesn't make sense. But of course, a lot of people believe in it, and Innocent may you also be among the people who believe in it.
In
Do you believe?
tribalism.
No, Fede,
Mm,
you don't.
I don't believe in
I'm
it.
glad. So a lot of people do believe in it, but me, I feel like it is still hypocritical
Mm,
for that kind of region to claim
mm,
for that, yet they are the ones who led to whatever that happened in Uganda, more especially when it comes to partitions. So why do they want to let go now? They should stay and enjoy their soul.
mm,
So the same thing. It is very hard for you in Africa to work without being, noticed. We've had tribal misunderstandings and conflicts in countries like Nigeria, where Igbos are still conflicting with the Yorubas, Hausa, Fulanis, and so forth.
mm,
That we saw the Igbos, of course, saying that they want to break away from Nigeria, them claiming we're not Nigerians, so we have to start our own Biafra. So there is too much that is going on in Africa on a basis of tribalism, and I feel like they have put a lot of energy on that tribal ownership than them being Africans, which actually, of course, creates negativity towards different. I can see Trip. Thank you for coming through. So I think Africans, we have so very much concentrated on the things that are not so important, because first of all, remember, all the things were drafted or constructed by the colonial masters, because they knew the moment we identify ourselves with a specific category and belong to a certain group of people, it is going to be hard for us to have one common goal, because each tribe wants to have their own different goal. So as we talk about Africa's unity, other people are like, well, I don't care as long as
mm,
Biafra unites. We don't really give a damn. You cannot be a Biafra from Nigeria. Somebody supporting Biafra, all right, fine. It's okay for you to support Biafra. But you cannot be saying you're supporting Biafra and you don't support working together with the coconut.
what is
You
it?
don't support working together with the
TikTok.
Hausas, Fulanis, and other people. Eh, stop! Why is it shaking like this? Why is the TikTok doing?
That's it's what I've been laughing at. And by the Samantha Carol is joining us on TikTok.
Yeah, Samantha Carol, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us on our TikTok. Where are you watching from, and what do you feel about tribalism in Africa? Basically, in a country like Uganda, where people feel that there is that tribe that takes lead in Uganda's politics, that there's too much hate spread towards that particular tribe. The moment you start talking and somebody says, "Shut up! You
Mm,
come from this tribe and you're also talking, don't talk." But not everyone is benefiting,
mm,
you know. So there is still that, and the same thing, some, people, like for example in Nigeria, sorry, in Kenya, where you see like other people will tell you, Kikuyu people are so disrespectful. Well, is that person a Kikuyu? Don't give a damn. Kikuyu people are bad and stuff like that. So I guess usually the people that are being tribalistically
mm,
harassed are people who probably belong to a tribe that is in power
mm,
at that time. So people always tend to turn and blame these others for what the people in power have done. We have seen the situation in Uganda, where apparently people who speak the same language with the current president are always, uh, are always attacked all over social media platforms, to the point that some of them don't want to recognize themselves as that tribe or as that group of people who speak that specific language. So um, what Africa should know is that Africa goes beyond that tribalism as a fault factor. Okay. Um,
mm,
that's that's no nation.
mm,
All right, we know, our tribalism has affected the development of Africa. It has also affected the unity of Africa. It encompasses various activities, and we know, otherwise, no problem. The emergence of tribal conflicts in Africa can be traced back to colonialism, as it created an even distribution of resources among different tribes, and engineered resentment. Um, it engineered resentment, class differences, and unhealthy tribalism that still affects the growth and the development of many African countries. And like I said, tribalism is something that just was drafted by the colonial masters, because it was easy for them to divide. There is always that word, that divide and conquer. Why should you identify yourself as a Kikuyu rather than a Kenyan? Why should I identify myself as a Bantu speaking person rather than being a Ugandan or a South African or Cameroonian, whatever the case may be? Why do we identify ourselves by that? Usually, in Africa, first thing somebody will ask you is, where do you come from? Where do you come from? They want to know, what is your tribe? I have to tell you my tribe. I mean, usually I don't even mention my tribe because it's not necessary. The most important thing is that I'm an African person and I come from Africa. So if you feel like you have to categorize me or identify me by a specific group of people, then you will not get me, on that, because I don't personally believe in that. So there is divide and a divide and then control, or divide and rule. This was a tactic that was used by colonial masters. Of course, specific identified tribes were of course chosen and of course privileged by and privileged, because like I always tell you, most of the tribes that are very prominent, or the tribes that you hear being so prominent, are tribes that were chosen by the colonial masters. Of course, you know that Africa has an issue of poverty and exploitation due to yeah, don't you see now it's not shaking?
Maybe the orientation was, but it wanted the landscape rather than that.
No, I think the buttons were being squeezed by the
Sure, but
that holder.
I tried to push them up. I think was still maybe the orientation was to be in that rather than. I just guess.
Okay, maybe.
Okay.
So we know we have had poverty and exploitation, economic and technological backwardness, social culture handicaps, problems of assimilation with the non-tribal population, and literacy among tribes is a major hindrance to the Africa's development. Of course, we have got, like I said, the colonialists or the colonial masters as were always distributing these resources according to the tribes. The most tribes, by the way, this is something that everyone should know, for those who don't know. Most of these prominent tribes that you hear about are tribes that involved a lot with the colonial masters. These are tribes that agreed with what the colonialists wanted. So they have so very much been privileged. Even when you still go back in history and you see most of these countries that agreed with the colonial rule, most of the countries that gave comfortability to the colonial masters, like have developed so fast, they have good infrastructure, like all the minerals that these people were of course, getting from these other African countries, they are putting in one location where they find peace, where they see there is security. Of course, their security was the people around that geographical area, you know, must have accepted them at that time. So, which of course guarantees them security because they felt loved around that place. So we've seen a lot of other. So we've seen a lot apart from, of course, Rwanda, of which I know Rwanda has grown so fast, and it has done this though it is still swindling the minerals in Congo, but it has done this on Kagame's regime. But we have seen countries like Kenya, which was built at the Nairobi and Mombasa, these two places which were built by the British, like they invested in a lot because the British people felt at home. Apart from the Mau Mau rebellion of Muzungu and the Ulaya Africana Party Uhuru, that were caused by the Kenyatta and other Pan-Africanists in Kenya at that time, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere down the other side. Apart from that, before the British people felt comfortable when they were in Kenya, and hence you can see the capital of Kenya, Nairobi, is very developed infrastructure wise. They invested in a lot. Now, when it comes to a country like Uganda, which had rebellious leaders who actually refused the colonial rule, and by the way, first these people had a lot of interest in Uganda apparently, and but Uganda had hostile. That's how they put it. That hostile tribes, hostile leaders, hostile kings, and stuff like that. You saw the Kabaka Mwanga, what he did to the missionaries. You see what Omukama Kabalega did to the British at that time. So it was very hard for these people to settle in the geographical area of Uganda at that time. So they all ran and settled in Kenya. Of course, Kenya welcomed them, and the white people fought us at peace. And until now, by the way, there is a high percentage of whites in Kenya compared to some many East African countries, because for the record, they were always welcomed around those areas. So tribalism, most of the people who were given advantage or people who were privileged by these colonial masters were people who always of course gave in and were working alongside these colonial masters, except that sometimes when we go back to history, it's painful. There are times I feel like when you talk about this, some other things, you're like trying to steer some conflicts still among, but we know a lot of Africans, sold out. A lot of people, they betrayed their families. They betrayed their relatives because of greed. A lot of that, because first of all, I cannot start defending the actions of because I'm an African and I don't want to talk about what happened during slave trade or stuff like that. The truth is the truth. The truth remains that these white people didn't know the interior of Africa. It was chosen Africans who knew what, of course, was or the roots and where to get people. So these others who were greedy were promised to be given land, land titles, land. They are promised to be given positions in kingdoms, and others were made kings and chiefs and stuff like that. We have a lot of Africans or regional, leaders in Africa that were oppressed by the British, and they put the skeleton leaders that the world knows right now. If you look at most of these prominent kingdoms all over Africa, these prominent kingdoms were kingdoms that were put by the British people simply because these people agreed to do what they wanted. They agreed to sell. They agreed to help them raid villages where they stole African young, energetic men and women to sell them into slavery. These people agreed to betray their brothers and sisters, all in the name of what they call nowadays fame or power. So it is true, it happened. As much as not everyone involved themselves in this, a lot of people lost their children. A lot of parents lost their children too during these days. And of course, there is something that is hardly spoken about. So me, it's spoken about by a lot of people. But even there was slave trade on at the coast of East Africa. We also had the Arabs coming in and taking East African people to, of course, the Middle East. We also had people who were taken from a country like Uganda, and they were taken into West, places like Jamaica, places like UK. We had slaves who were picked from East Africa and were taken to those parts, basically Jamaica, UK, and of course, and they crossed the Antarctic. Atlantic. They crossed them and they became slaves over there. Yeah, but usually in Zimbabwe, people always talk about, most of the slaves and stuff like that. There is a lot that is hidden in this story of the slaves, and for me, usually it was too much of a tribal conflict that people hardly talk about. You will hear most of the people, to be honest, most of these people who were taken as slaves were people who were coming from royal families, were people who were coming from royal families. And if you still check, except that nowadays somebody is just going to identify themselves and say, I'll try to look for my DNA. It says I'm coming from West Africa. Where from West Africa are you really coming from? Well, it doesn't matter now, because me, I feel like it doesn't matter, because we don't want like people to feel that tribal issue, that tribal sentiment within them. So that I belong to this particular tribe, because actually that thing is affecting us so very tremendously. People identifying themselves with this specific tribes, which I feel is affecting. But if you're somebody who was taken into slavery, or your forefathers were slaves in whatever place that you were at, maybe the US or UK, German, whatever place, you should know that many people, the biggest population of people who were taken were people who were coming from royal family. They were so much attacking these royal families, and those were the greedy people who wanted to overthrow these royal families and claim power. And of course, most of the royal families that were fighting against the colonialists now, they wanted to depopulate the biggest percentage of people who are up against the colonial rule, that they started kidnapping, burning these villages, raping the women, and taking them into slavery, because they wanted to weaken these various kingdoms or empires. So it really did work, because if in Africa, it is the children who keep the legacy of their forefathers. So if at all if at all your children are taken into slavery, or you remain with probably maybe your wife or something, the next thing you see, probably your brother wants to take over. And usually these people were doing this were close, because they knew who to take, they knew who to give up, they knew whom to sell for specific greedy reasons that, of course, the world doesn't talk about majorly. Apparently, from like where I come from, only that at a certain time, we saw, you know, usually there are people who were taken and they kept track of where they came from. It was very easy to know, more especially if you came from a royal family, that you would know there is this specific kingdom. Probably I'm going to use, for example, you would say there is Toro Kingdom. And they kept on. So there is one guy who came back, and he said his great grandfather told him that he was actually in Jamaica. He came from Jamaica. So he said his great grandfather told him actually he comes from Toro Kingdom. Now he knew, because he was named. His great grandfather kept on the names, they kept their names running, and when you could hear his name, he was called Rukirabaseja, a name that his name is given to princes and kings in that area. So having that name, he had to tell a story. And when they cross-checked everything, apparently they came to discover. So he got to meet his grandparents, got to meet his true lineage, and then everyone was like, and that's why it was very important for also the slave masters to make sure that they take away your name, because the moment you know you are set to, you will definitely know where you come from. The moment I know I'm the other name of mine, I'll definitely know where I come from, even if in whichever part of the world I'll be at that time, I will know that, you know what, my name is this, I must be coming from this specific area. That's why it was very important for the for the slave masters to remove those names, because our African names are identities. Their identities. So if those names are scrubbed, me, the moment I stand and say my name, they'll know I'm a Bantu. They say, okay, this person is this. So the moment someone mentions their name, they will say, all right, these people are definitely this. So, probably, all right, Maria is a Nubian. So her name is that, she must be a Nubian. Um, because these names identifiers, they had meaning. First of all, they were used for identification in the first place. So during those days, as tribes go on, we have come to discover that the tribes in Africa have a lot in common, not only with the food, but the way people are behave, the way people are organized. But at times I'm asking myself, why should you identify yourself by that specific tribe? You see, at times you look at people eating, and then I'm like, okay, that food you are eating is eaten in Uganda as well. You understand? But maybe you're calling it different, but you're cooking it just the same. You see, you look at, leave alone this other food. Who's that? Tribalism and social bonding help to keep individuals committed to the group, even when personal relations may fray. That keeps individuals from wandering off or joining other groups. It also leads to bullying when a tribal member is unwilling to conform to the politics of the collective. That we identify ourselves with the specific tribes. We group ourselves. Remember last time we were talking about, there is that very tribe that I will not mention. Those people always, when they are in a school, you start a school, you will see one come. Before the term closes, you are going to see, like, why is that TikTok doing this?
I guess maybe it was battery, maybe battery.
What?
Yeah. At first I thought it was orientation, but
It's becoming worse.
it's becoming worse. Yeah, it is shaking our I mean our mouth.
so So the moment you see them in school, you know they are coming 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to the population that they want. Because of tribalism, they collect them, so they are like bees, they swarm together everywhere. You have seen that. So even people will want, there is you will see one tribe come in an area, they go to the village and collect everyone. Never jula. Omanyi babasoga olaba omusogo ku kyalo ewamu mu wiiki ezi ng'abajjudde omanyi lwaki anti basoga babagamba mugende musoge.
Which means what?
Just go and germinate.
So we
From germinating, okusoga is a renewal word. Okumininga, okugerminate. It's like when you power the beans
and they grow.
N'obiwa byonna ne bikula kumukumu byasoga. Kifunyi byasoga.
Leave alone.
So babatuma kusoga from the other side. Ne babagamba nti go and kusoga mugende musoge era bakisogera ddala.
I had the guys, the other chapati guy. He's some guy who looks to be understanding. He's understanding because he does understanding because when you talk to him, he's like he's having some. He gives, he gives like the views like he's having some vision in the head. But the guy, they sleep like this small room. You know those rooms in Nakula, like a room means always a little weight. No kalabakano from here. Say from that end up to here. That is a room.
And Baliomo.
They are like six.
They are
Ate
suffocating.
besides being six, they also basomba. Eh, ono yeebaka wano alina omukazi ebeefumitira wano bali nabo ne badda ekiro kati emiranga n'ebbugumu eribeera omwo okufuuwa. So I looked at the guys. I told him, how can you, how do you, when it, I told him now, when it is, especially when it's about rain, a lot of heat, a lot of
There is that
temperature.
temperature.
The other guys don't hear that heat.
But
They are
you
like
also get at
six in a small room. It's like I told him this is a prison, bro.
they can die of suffocation.
Ah.
And at times those small houses are not ventilated well. But anyway, that that is it. Like so me, I feel we as African people should we should be identified
Mhm.
by the Africanism in us than the tribalism issue. We should be identified by the fact that we are Africans, not looking at our geographical location. Though there is a way we were designed by the colonial masters that our way of behavior was so very much inspired or built around the economical or social behavior of the colonial masters who were there and how they designed everything about us. That's why you see, apparently, people in Africa behave differently. People always have this picture in their mind the moment they hear the word Africa. They think we are so much into the Africanism. But I can tell you that people have adapted a lot of, the Western culture, and they are letting go what identifies them as African people. Starting way back, the days of independence. When we let go independence, we didn't let go these new cultures that we have adapted. We didn't let go the ways that they have imparted in us, and we still carry this through. Remember, when the French people colonized the French, they brought another culture, French way of life, French way of living, that even these people started behaving like them, and which, of course, differentiates us from each other. You see, those who are colonized by the German, it is the same thing. Those who are colonized by British, when you go to Nairobi, you will see the streets of Nairobi. Most of the grown up men were in the British kind of way. No matter the weather, at times we'll see the women, they try to wear those winter boots. And when I'm in Nairobi, I'm like, why are you wearing these winter boots? Like, really? For me, I mean, why are you wearing the winter boots? It's the same thing that happens in South Africa. I don't know whether it is categorized with the modernity, it is categorized with the style, or we are some modern something. I've not seen a lot of those winter boots in Uganda, actually.
But from the other kid, we saw.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You saw that kid. She was like, she's in Antarctica. I was like, are you Eskimo? Why do you wear those feathery boots? First of all, you have to look at the climate we are living in, the weather. So most of these things we are adapted. So you are in the streets of Nairobi and you're looking at a man wearing a big one with a long neck stuff, and is moving with they always have those small sweaters, those armless sweaters that the British usually wear. By the way, I was in Nairobi and I looked at most of the Kenyan men. I was like, yo, these people have adapted a lot. Hi Maria, and said to you, yes, Mr. Black Hole Part Network. You're welcome on TikTok. So I was like, these people have some too much of British lifestyle. Like, why are you wearing this? Like right now, why are you wearing those winter boots? What identifies you as an African? Jibjaba asked the question that what identifies me as an African. What identifies me as an African? First of all, is one, my skin,
Mm.
my melanin, my hair, my culture, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, and the way I behave, I'm typical African.
Mm.
Typical 100. I'm always happy. We
Mm.
African people are always happy,
Mm.
Innocent will tell you. And I love people. Though I don't love being around very many people, but
Mm.
I love seeing people happy. I may not be that kind of person who loves being, like being around people. But of course, my culture also.
Mm.
That's I want and Maria. That's what I said, Maria.
Mm.
I'm a good guy. But the paper exam is a lot of African identity within talk about this African identity. So I think uh, um anthological questions and reality of Africa come and being an African. I think he says that that's what
Mm.
I said, Maria.
Mm.
Of course, I think he is in support of like
Mm.
what he was saying about the dressing code
Mm.
in some other areas of Africa. We have not seen a lot. Kenya, Kenya are very British. Yes, Kenyan people are so British. I saw that. My first time in Nairobi, I was wondering because I didn't expect that. I was wondering, even the poorest person, even the poorest person is wearing those, high school, British,
Skies
kind
and
of no, they have those sleeve
armlets.
armless sweaters with
Um,
the ties in there.
mm.
You will see that the ladies wearing those winter boots
Mm.
all the time. And I'm
About
like, it
how
is
about
fucking
this
hard. How do you
these
wear those
how
winter
about these
boots?
hats these
Yeah,
big
and some of them will have that Queen Elizabeth heart. So this was because this is I was trying to show you how the existence of these British people tried to separate our cultural being, that it created a difference between Africans and their culture, that most people believe that this adapted culture is actually African culture, but these are cultures that were only adapted after the colonialists came down here. These are cultures that Africans imitated. Like, I think it is important to some Africans to appear so westernized or to appear so much of the other. Probably they categorize this with the class. Maybe I don't know, but this is the problem. So we usually want to differentiate ourselves, and we usually identify these new adapted cultural ways like our culture. So somebody's going to say, at the moment, probably somebody's going to see you in Nairobi, and definitely we are not wearing like they do. Somebody's going to say, this is definitely from Uganda. They're the ones who put on like this. Dude, are you from Uganda? I can see the way you're putting on, because he's differentiating you, not because you're not cultural or you are not appearing cultural, you are not appearing as a cultural Kenyan, but because you're not wearing the British style that the majority of people wear. You see? So I feel like if we go back into the original or the ordinary African person who is not polished to the colonial master style, you will identify that we have a lot in common. It doesn't matter the region you are at, it doesn't matter the location, it doesn't matter with the boundaries, we have a lot in common. One of the things that has failed to be changed, basically, though there is a little bit touch to some other things, food. African people love food. They respect food a lot. That's why you cannot say fufu was adapted. It is fufu, and you find fufu apparently in entire Africa. There is fufu in Uganda. We just don't call it fufu. You see? But because we don't call fufu fufu, we call it atapa. But we call it atapa in Uganda. We have fufu. So if we don't call fufu fufu, it doesn't mean it is not fufu. But remember, Uganda is in the eastern part of Africa, and they have fufu. You see, and they are calling it a different name. This shows that we have a lot of things in common. I was so very surprised when somebody was saying, now, for you people, do you even know what this means? Somebody's trying to show me they cook food with the cassava leaves and they call it something else. We cook the same thing in Uganda and we call it sombe. We mix it with food. There is you will see except that people don't move to see the things. When you are in your geographical area, the demarcation that the British put you in, you will not know that there is a versatile or food things. There's a lot of things going on beyond those boundaries that you will see that the Yoruba people talking about a goosey soup. I'm usually looking at them and I'm asking, how do you cook this? What are the ingredients you put in? Apparently we have the same shit here, we call it different. And I'm like, people are talking, you can never find a goosey. I'm like, what are they talking about? This food that we cook here every day, really? The only thing is we call it different. We don't call it a goosey. So if you look at our culture way of feeding, our food unites us. And I'm telling you, food is a very important aspect in Africa's culture because food unites us. Yes, it may have a different touch, but it is always, in most cases, it is like the same. So if you look at all the things, you'll come to realize that we are one person. We are one person being named differently, adapting different kind of cultures, adapting different kind of lifestyles. But at the end, we are one. And I know this is basically the reason why. Get this one number. Basically, the reason. Yes, you are one people, Maria. Yeah, that's of course a comment from Akib. So me, I usually like when I'm on social media platforms, I have friends like all over Africa and outside Africa, of course. I got a lot of friends from the US, I got a lot of friends from Nigeria, Cameroon. I got a lot of friends from Senegal, South Africa, and, all over Africa, by the way. I have a lot of friends. And I don't have many friends from Uganda. I think my entire Facebook, apart from my brothers, I don't have people from Uganda because, of course, I know Uganda. The reason why I have this different group of people, because I want to know. I want to know how they think. I want to know who they are. I want to know how they behave. And that's why I have the majority of my friends all over my social media, platforms are not people from where I am, apart from my family, that's to say. So that's how I got to see how these people carry themselves, behave, believe. I got to understand that we have a lot in common. But I think we usually focus on a few things that are not very important. Like I gave you the example of the style, the clothing that people usually have. We should look at the way a woman is. I don't want to use the word decoration. Probably it goes for idols or things that are static, but the way a woman is. The endowment of an African woman all over the world. The endowment of an African woman all over the world throughout history was categorized with gold beads. All those the beads, the gold, the bling bling stuff, and things like that. So everywhere in Africa, it is to the point that it was very important for a man to probably present, these bracelets or beads or whatever to the fiancé or the wife, which was a symbol of love, a symbol of wealth. So women were respected, and a woman looking good, of course, was very important in Africa's history, that a man made sure that their women look good. Except that nowadays I see people misusing. They are watching a lot of Indian movies. You see African women wearing these bracelets on their legs. Every time she's moving, like she's ringing a bell, like cha cha cha. Those things were either worn during festivals, like dancing festivals, and they had meaning all over Africa. This is not only about East Africa. You know, all over, even West Africa had the same, even South Africa had. So they wear those beads, others wear and at a specific part of a leg to show I'm single, I'm not married. Others will wear to show I'm a widow, and the colors come alone. Nowadays, you see just people wearing because you just saw the thing on TV. The mainstream is trying to change everything. It was easier for men to identify that this person is wearing this bead on her leg. She's definitely married, or she's a widow, or she probably is single. She doesn't have a man. And instead of you going around saying, I don't have a man, I'm a widow, I'm a what, they were those endowment that showed, that communicated to the people that nowadays I see people just wear them for the sake. And nowadays they are categorized with the hawkers or prostitute, because the moment an African man sees a woman wear that shit, it's gonna say, sis, are you selling? And I've seen that apparently, because I don't even know where they are imitating this from, but it was something that Africans used to wear. I stepped away. Are you saying our community?
I agree.
Okay, Jibijaba, you do really agree. Thank you. So like that lady you told me about.
He said that I stepped away. Are you saying our commonality?
Our commonality. Yeah. I'm saying our commonality, Jibijaba. Of course, Keith says that like that lady you told me about from Uganda. We are having, tribal wars. Yes, Keith. By the way, tribal wars are things that are wars that can never end. If you want to see the Bollywood starts, it's all about skin bleaching. To if you want to see a civil war that is going to be endless, start tribal wars. Start tribal wars. And this is the design that was put in Congo. That's why it is very hard for Congo wars to end. It is more of tribal wars. They get different tribes to fight each other. You are seeing what is happening right now in Ethiopia. You are seeing all these tribal. If you want to destroy the entire African continent, start those tribal wars, because people respect the tribes more than even being Africans. People identify their tribes more than anything. So, of course, yeah.
And the Hamaric.
Yeah. Just like the other lady, Keith is saying. The moment I went to that lady's profile, I knew there was something off about her, despite of the fact that she was, of course, talking about the real things that I would love to hear. But there is how she was, involving around tribal sicknesses to Ryan. And if I was to touch her tribe, if I was to start telling her about that tribe, which I don't want to be tribal, I don't want to be tribalistic. But if I was to tell her, she doesn't even have the right, by the way, to be talking nonsense like that. She doesn't have that right. She's talking, she's also Minyarwanda. Do we still have original Bagandas? She's crazy. The woman is just crazy. Maybe probably she's a lost fella. So I just look at her and say she's a grown-up woman. She may curse me for nothing. You know, people can start cursing. I curse you, you'll never know peace. Because you have just told them the truth. For me, I looked at her and I'm like, ooh, now this one, she doesn't even know. Should we start pointing fingers? I'm sorry to say, I can stand proudly and say, well, probably I belong to a certain tribe. Now tell me, what did I do? Proudly, I can stand and say it. She cannot. No, you're talking about who doesn't belong. Should we talk? I was even going to remind her the very tribe she was trying to categorize the Ugandans at that time. I would even remind her that, do you remember when the British took the king of your region to, of course, Britain, and they introduced a lot of people from Rwanda to come and settle in your kingdom, where they started planning genocide of Rwanda. She wanted me to remind her about that. And she said, I belong to that specific tribe. The rest of the people are Rwandese. No, please. She's definitely living around these, and maybe she doesn't even know. So when you start these tribal wars, at the end of all, if we start pointing, then it is like a network. It is like a network. It's like a net. It's a web. You'll be pointing, but at the end, all these fingers are going to wrap and come back and point at the same position. So that's why tribalism is a bad thing. For you to feel like you can only identify yourself by a specific tribe, you're wrong. Last time you were telling me like what you were finding at your family graveyards. You're like, say, I tried to see at our graveyards we have some ancestral name Maria that come from your region. And I'm like, yo, so apparently your forefathers were coming from my region. And right now, if those graves were not there that have those names that are indicated, you wouldn't know. So apparently you believe that you come from this tribe, but you don't.
I guess even my ancestors, they might have not even spoken my language.
They didn't even speak your language, you see, because their graves read the language from where those names are named from where I come from. So if you try to cross-check, we all end at one point, whether we like it or not. All Africans end at one point. And this is something that people are not told. This is the most important thing that people are not told. So apparently when people started moving, you had issues, you move from the other side, you come this side, colonial masters, of course, and by then they had a lot of influence when it came to naming. Before in Africa, before even you bore a child, the name of that child was already designed by those people. Not everyone was naming, and it wasn't about the father naming. So the situation, just like the moment, the duration, and whatever happened at that time. So a lot of people were named differently according to the situation, that was happening at that time, according to how their parents experienced the duration of that child when they were in the womb. So a lot of things were, of course, and of course there is also the legacy name that people had to follow, but your name is not the legacy name. You are not called your ancestral name. You see? Because your forefathers have a different name entirely, and your name is different, and it is definitely not their name. So somebody's going to look at you and say, INNOSSETU, yeah, we get to know that your name, you're definitely from the Central. And you're like, yeah, I'm from the Central. First of all, I speak that language. Secondly, my name is INNOSSETU, of course. But when you go to where they are laying your forefathers, their names are different, very different from INNOSSETU. So, Aloy, me, I don't. When I told at times, I'm sorry, Muzungus create black profiles to create division. Sometimes it's a computer bot programmed for racial division. True, I do agree with you, Jibjaba. I do agree with you on that. So that division has actually worked, that Africans are so divided, and when it comes, and again, religion did a lot, has a lot also to do with this tribalism thing. At the time of religion, there are specific people who involved a lot in embracing the missionaries. They were always at the forefront of religion. Like I said, people who agreed with colonialism were favored. They were put on the map, they were identified, like they were written in the books of history. These are the histories that the Muzungu wrote, the history that everyone thinks is true. I usually tell you something, INNOSSETU, you just Keith usually asks, like, how come you guys are different? You don't see things different. I believe it is me. Well, I may be wrong, but this is how I feel. There is a reason why you wake up one time and you feel like it is important for you to fight for Africa. And if you try to check if you try to cross-check your biological background, you will find you still have people from your lineage who fought for the freedom of others. You still have people who stood by the truth. You still have people who were warriors, people who were strong, who were bold, stand by the truth, no matter what come may. So it is not that something that you just get from the blue and you say, I feel like I should do. It is something that is born. It is an inbuilt thing. It is thing that is led more by a conspiracy. Get up. Get up. Okay, over the years, tribalism emanating from these various tribes has influenced leadership and politics. It led to insurgencies, affected the growth of development of countries, and continued to be a major deciding factor in the leadership and the progress of many, many African countries. Tribalism has, of course, affected the growth and the development of countries. It has continued to be a major deciding factor in the leadership and progress of many African countries. That Africans rather choose a wrong leader than seeing another tribe that they feel doesn't belong to them come into power. We have had people say, thank you. We have people. Yes, they do, Jiva. Exactly, Maria. All right. We have had the people who rather vote in a leader that they see is not a good leader, but they would vote this person simply because this person is speaking their language. That's why when we have presidential campaigns, people first ask, where does he come from? Of which tribe is he? Is he of this tribe? I'm definitely not voting that tribe. I cannot allow that tribe to, of course, lead me. So a lot of people have a lot of perceptions, and tribalism have negative consequences, of course, which include individuals or groups or that take away the rights of others, status, independence. The negative aspects of tribalisms are often fueled by competition and the perception of a common threat. Everyone apparently is so afraid if we get this other tribe to come into power, definitely we are not going to, of course, get benefits from these. But we've seen people who have been in power and they have not even worked for their people, for the so-called tribe thing.
And when Jibjaba says when the lights are out, you can't tell one tribe from another. Africans need to unite.
Yeah. When the lights are out, you can't tell.
Then what to find again. How? Omanyi wangu. Punyanja. No, to be honest. How are you for real? Never meet there.
No, stop.
With the negative
one, with your mother innocent, you with your mind. Simbi, it is just a natural thing. So call him.
So, with a negative connotation and in political context, tribalism can also mean a discriminatory behavior or attitudes towards outgroups based in group loyalty. whenever people are confined in one group, they identify themselves as
And
tribe,
that's specific for,
and
yeah.
it is the same thing colonial masters used. Whenever they could come to Central, they could convince them you're a different tribe.
You are different, you're
Hey,
different from
hey, you're
that.
blessed.
Ugandans, you're not
Eh,
definitely Kenyans. South
eh,
Africans, you're not definitely Botswanas.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So you also from you're doing that you're from you're blessed with a lot of things. You're blessed to lead. There is a way they convince a
Linda,
certain groups of.
Linda.
Mm.
You I you thought I said no. This one is not soda. You saw innocent. It is water. It is not soda. Seriously, it is water. Oh, it is water. You see, innocent is the one who put it here. It is water, not soda. You know, like the cups are too small, and I take a lot of water. So if I take from a cup, you'll see me taking I don't know how many cups. I rather take from this huge bottle. I sip it and I add sip another and sip and a sip and a sip.
I don't know if I'm like
You'll get it.
So I was saying that the colonial masters, whenever they could come in a certain group of people, like people in the central, they convince them, you're blessed with this, you're born to lead, you have a lot of knowledge, you're blessed with
Yeah, this is
intelligence.
how they lie
You
to
must,
them.
yeah, because
But you are dumb and stupid to think I'm always convincing you right.
and this, like in Uganda, the Bazungus first came in to actually to go in other parts of Uganda. They first came here in the central. So and they are the same people who called them. So they convinced them you're intelligent, you're what, no matter why. Most of the slave masters, they were Baganda. Most of them,
Yeah,
they
most of the
could go
slave
and
master,
raid
yeah.
other tribes, other
It's
other
true.
areas.
I'm loving the fact that you know it.
So that's why. So that's why you see that division of tribalism, and you see how people are fighting each other in one country.
First of all, they lied to them. They told them you can sell all these other people. We want to give you the entire Uganda. So the one they were struggling, and remember, kid, this lady's group of people, the one who is pretending, there is that lady on TikTok. One day I will wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I will find her. One day it will be fire. Except that it hurts me to like be arguing with the fellow black people. It's at times it gets so emotional when you see that somebody doesn't really understand. So these people were promised. Remember, they were promised land. They are saying if you sell these people, of course you are going to depopulate them. We are going to take them to Jamaica. We are going to take them to UK. A lot of Ugandans around were taken to Jamaica and UK by the British people, and they convinced these people that if you sell them, you are going to depopulate them. The land that is going to be emptied, of course, we are going to give it back to you. You see, so you see how vigorously these people were rushing out to, of course, raid these places, kidnap, and of course, bring these Ugandans who were in those different regions to the British, and hence selling them, sailing with them along the Indian Ocean, boom, taking them to, of course, Europe at that time. Many of them also went to Germany, and many of them also went to UK, and of course, Jamaica. So the promises, these people usually do the same thing. They are doing the same technique with the current leaders. They will tell you, we shall put you in power. You know what, Bobby Wine, we are going to put you in power, but at the end of it all, we want this. They bargain. We want this from Uganda. Definitely, you are going maybe to give us like 75% of Uganda's oil and gas. You are going to give us the minerals, and we are going to definitely make sure that you come in power. This is what they do, and this is what they have been doing throughout for history for centuries. They have been doing this, and they keep saying you are the strong people, so those others are weak. And that's why most of these people who have been put at the forefront by the British usually think they are smarter. And for them, they understand things more than others. They lie to you because if you were not that dumb, you would not have agreed to be used by these very people. It doesn't make sense to me. So,
And, so and you let again. By the way, like this type of this tribalism thing, it is also another kind of culture for the Bazungus. No matter why it might be called racism outside Africa, but it is tribalism.
It is their symptom.
Yeah. So
it is something that is part of them.
So that tribalism culture, individuals are responsible to take care of their relatives and close family members. Social pressure created cultural norms and collective tribal life might cause tribal members to fulfill their cultural objectives through corrupt actions such as favoritism and nepotism to the people they call their tribesmen. So that is
don't tell said to don't tell said to mother. Don't tell said to mother that Maria, she will tell you that Jamaica aren't African. I shouldn't tell your dad, your mom about Jamaicans being African. A lot of people don't really know the truth behind their true history, but this and these things that I'm saying, things are repeating itself. Things are repeating. There's nothing that is happening now that never happened before.
So, like I said, that this thing is a culture that actually breeds corruption, because of course, if you give someone political, if you politically elect someone on tribal basis, these are the people that are going to do nepotism and favoritism of people whom they seem to be of the same
that this is my
culture.
tribe, they should be the ones in office. This is my tribe, they should be the ones doing this. You're putting them at the front all the time. You know, that favoritism and also development that only lies in whatever region that you find favorable. Yeah, I understand.
And by the way, this can be hard for individuals who cherish their alone time. Needless to say, it is not for everyone. So, tribalism has a strong sense of so tribal so tribalism has that strong sense of community, what they call fake community shared culture, traditions and values. Fake tradition, sense of community shared culture, traditions and values, close connection to the land and natural environment, and deep sense of belonging. You know, a certain tribe will say that this is our land. We don't need any
people. Other person.
Yet we are in one country.
We don't want
we are in one
Africa.
So that advantage is fake. It is fake. For now we are in one country. How would you say that you say that deep sense of belonging?
You're going.
Jimmy says, Maria, you can't fix stupid. You will reach those that are ready.
Okay. Sawa zibiri twakwongerako kati sawa 3 zokka tukole nya ekisajja wekiri. It's 9 PM
Mm.
is kikyategeeza
Tekirisa tukyakola. Tegese tuyimpe.
olimba
Mm.
olimba boy.
So like and these people knew that if at all they create Africa, if at all they design Africa on a basis of tribalism, there is no way we can be together. There is no way we can unite because everyone will have a belonging on land. This is our land for Baganda. This is our land for Banyoro. Okitegeera.
Wakimanyi.
Do you know there are certain people,
Olumucha.
most especially the Baganda, mu Muganda. I won't fear saying this. They think that Buganda is for Baganda.
And it's for the Bajab.
It's for Ugandans and Africans. Who told you? Say mine, I don't mind.
You're not knowing your
You
language.
want me to look for my DNA? No, like I told you the whole story. Hey, I told you the whole story. Like the other people, like they buried them in 1900.
Can you imagine? Until before that agreement was signed.
Yeah, they were like those people that have those petty names. Eh?
The problem with
They
both
were-
of these, ideal, whatever.
They were buried in 1900 and they were in Bali mu as in Bali bakolera Kabaka. Bali they were working for Kabaka.
Omuzungu n'ateekako omuntu n'amuteekako webba.
Because
batandika
there's certain
kubeera
history also that like people like these are those who are rebels that used to come and raid Uganda.
Kati mujjajjaawo you may find
was-
abantu originals during when they made the 1900 agreement, a lot of people were killed. There was a very big genocide in Uganda at that time, and except that when you talk about the truth like this, usually it is very disheartening. It causes emotional things. I don't like talking about them. Nze nkubuulira, most of the people you see, even the histories will tell you we had this group. The British had created their own rebels. And education is very important. Information is very important. They cut off the real true information that the original people who were even in that very kingdom were killed. And most of these others were rebels who were coming from Rwanda at that time. They were picking them from different areas. They were coming from different areas where the British had settled at that time. And it is me, I just look at people fighting for kingship nowadays. We adore you, you slipped on, someone is stepping on your ass. You even don't know where this person came from. You don't know these people were rebels. They were brought to commit all these crimes. And at the end of the day, they are being praised by the people. Because the information was distorted. We had a lot of people now, if I'll refer this to like what you said, that on the graves of your four grandfathers, they died in 1900. A lot of people were up against the 1900 agreement. That was the agreement that was signed between the British and those rebels that were brought to Uganda at that time from whatever place that I will not mention. People who refused to sign this were killed. And I'm sorry to say, you may find even when your forefathers were also killed.
So
yeah, that's why you see that your name changed. When these people saw that the British were killing, they decided to change their names. Because the names were identifying the region where, yes, they had to change their names to Baganda names, because if they remained with those royal names that were showing them that they are the rebellious people, they would end up being killed. That's why even your name is not connected to your ancestral name, because it was important that those forefathers who were there at that time changed the name of their children to protect them from the massacre that was being done around Buganda. But when I look at people like saying the Buganda kingdom and our king, he's not your king. Even the original king was killed, and people were killed at that time. But of course, this information was sealed. The true information was sealed. So and now you will see a lot of now this lady on TikTok, the one Kate usually talks about, she's busy there. She doesn't know even her forefathers were killed. She's just busy talking nonsense. She doesn't even know her true history. She doesn't know the truth. It was important for people to change their names in Uganda. People don't know this because the British were hunting. Uganda was one of the regions that was so hostile to the British people. It was so hostile to those foreigners. So most of the people that were so hostile were being killed. And they brought these rebels from a certain area to come and fight.
Like we used to do like when the rivals were still Mazda Tower and those things. So they had to call that for ghost where we came from. That person I've talked about, those ancestors that were buried in 1900. And maybe I was like Nkatagira Uganda. No, kati gwogera mu Luganda because kwegulamu that Muslim. But when nga bagufuna wali, and it took time like nga 4 years nga tegulabikanga, but on coming out it wasn't speaking in Luganda and no one knew about the language it was speaking.
So you can see a lot. A lot. Me, I'm always, when I come across a lot of people who feel like we shouldn't talk about these real things, there is no way we can. I don't know why TikTok is doing this. There is no way we can hide from the truth. Honestly, there is no way we can hide from the truth. There is no way we can hide from what is going on, more especially because knowledge is power, information is power. And I may be well versed probably with the history in Uganda. I may not be well versed with the history in some other regions. I may have a little bit touch of it, but there is a lot to Africa's history than what meets the eyes. I usually, and I'll keep saying this, and I'll say this today again, that most of the people you see in the leadership all over Africa, these were the sellouts. Most of these people you see all over. So I'm the one in Ashanti Kingdom, those ones were the sellouts. The original Ashanti people in Ghana are not seen anywhere. They put these puppets, they put these other people, they imposed on the people of Ashanti. The original Ashanti are nowhere to be seen. Even right now, as we keep on blaming the Buganda Kingdom, the original people could have never done that. Strong men of will were African people. Most of the people we see in leadership are traitors throughout, in both chiefdoms, kingdoms, everywhere. You see, so there
is a way these people confused Africans.
They confused Africans a lot.
They made everything to
They turned everything. After when you see someone talking, you may think people are mad.
That's what they
Stupid people keep saying this one is insane.
No, like
the truth is
like because they are the same things they have been learning in schools
for a long time.
There is no way you can convince them unless they are out of that fucking box.
Sugar.
Ah, that's okay. Tunagenja.
A question: how does anyone know your tribe unless you tell them?
Ngetandikira wano.
Okay. Maria.
Landoa.
Hi, family. Greetings and power to all. Hey, INNOSSETU and Maria. Greetings and peace to you both. Thank you so much. Peace back and to you, Lando. Question: how does anyone know your tribe unless you tell them? Hi, family. Greetings. Okay, and power. We were that. How does anyone know their tribe? Because for them, they believe we are born in this region. We are definitely like the excuse you are trying to give me. I was born in this region. I'm definitely from this region.
And actually, these people demarcated and gave these regions certain.
That leaders. By the way, it is very
If at all I had like my father was there, I would have asked this.
So you don't have your uncle upside down.
They are stupid. All their focus is on land, like getting land, land grabbing and all that fucking stuff. And I guess even these people, they don't know about this shit. They're just focusing on land grabbing.
More question. Or region, what Muzungu church you go to? We don't do that. We don't do church. Seriously.
Lando, hi Lando, all right. So besides keeping the legacy, but it's like I'm like be opening something. Kyesimanyi kigwera okitegeera, but nakirabanga, but I used to ask some people like my sisters, but they couldn't give me satisfying answers over this. They don't know.
Take care, family. Got to get back to it. Our discussion stays great. Discussion stays strong. Thank you so much, GB Jabba. Thank you so much for, of course, being here with us. My phone is the phone is gonna shut down. We've been on TikTok for apparently.
Okimanyi yavudde ku 15 nenda ku 16.
Oyagala tugire paka tutuyite.
Because ebinadata
Nagira wano wabaawo ne bano.
Tugiteeko.
Oyo no wanju alowooza tetwafunye ennyumba.
Okutya nga tugijjeko nga tukulooze nga tugenda. So I was telling you, I used to ask my big sis, like, why is it that there are those two forefathers, grandfathers who have, and like they are the same people, father, grannies, even my father, very many people in that line. So I would ask, why is it that these people have Atieni, Sally, Amoti?
Oh, there's this.
And the top one is called Amoti. It doesn't have this Sally watered one. The second one is Atieni Sally. The first one is Amoti, doesn't have anything. Doesn't have any. They're working bona apart from the grandfather, like the grandfather like of my father. I mean Jeja Tata. Apart from him, but these Katitata, oh, you get me?
Yeah, I get.
Yeah, bona bali bakola mu lubiri. Like they had certain bali balina positions mu lubiri. So these ones they are rich. They were rich kubanga Jajja azala like my grandfather yazala Jajja azala tata wange. Like all these people abaana bali bana babagagga tebalina kye baakola ate omwana w'omugagga. They just ate what their fathers and grannies did. And they didn't work anything because bali bana babagagga.
So people come from the real
so those are the stories.
But
and
of
the
course,
profession.
they had to scrub those names out to secure. Kuba
Because
kakasera there
because
was
there is
too
no
much
there is no
genocide.
there is no
Lwaki ne bakyusa.
why I was too much into this. There is no petty name in Uganda who is called Atieno Wambo. There is no name that is related to that. You find all these other people, they are called the full Baganda
Alijjukira
names,
bali baali
including
baluganda baali balongo katuna jeno kime maswa musimbo
so you see that tribes are nothing. Tribes are
tribes
fake.
are nothing. Like I said, if you decide to follow tribes, at the end you will all meet at one point. You may move whatever you start moving, but if you follow the real lineage, if you start following chain by chain, at the end of it all, we all Africans shall meet at one point. You check it out. And this has been shown even in the few family communities that at one point they are all ending at one direction. Someone starts telling you that, you know what, I come from the other side and we are that, and you first check and what were the names of your forefathers and stuff. At the end of it all, you find that they are all meeting at one point. So you remember there is a man I interviewed here on Black of Fire Network some years back. He was fighting for the reparation of a certain kingdom in Uganda, and these people, the British, thought they had massacred the entire tribe.
On commercials.
I will send you guys money groceries because I don't want to see you guys on commercials for poor. I'm quite okay. So if you see these things, if you if you look at the stuff, you know your family's house. I need you to get set to lots of popcorn, Maria. We shall buy a kilo and we'll be popping it here. Anytime we come and we have a barrel of it. So, like I was telling you, the major aim of these British at that time were to massacre abantu abavanga mu Bunyoro Kitara, or what they call the Kitara Empire.
Or the rebel area.
The Kitara Empire, consisting the entire Western. That was an empire. And remember, even the original Uganda,
because
never
of course,
even the Masuga came from
the other
side.
one was an empire. It was big.
It was big.
This was a small kingdom.
So, though they thought they had massacred Chovola Banguga Banti, at that time they started changing names because whenever they would see that your name was identifying yourself with the so-called, the people they called rebels who were up against colonialism, they were killing them. And so people started changing names of their children to protect them from the British and those puppets who were working for the British, because a lot of prominent families actually died, to the point that there is one thing the Prime Minister in UK said that year when that guy went to ask for reparation. The guy said that we think there is no that empire no longer exists because we think all the people were killed. But little did they know that some people changed their names to protect. So these are the people who came back and they started fighting. These are the people who, these are families where we were born. Unfortunately, my family, for them, they did not change that. They were diehards. You don't tell them to change no shit. Proudly say that you don't care. They were, and they always say they are very big-headed. A lot of people are killed. They say we cannot change our names, so we rather be General Mosquito. General Mosquito, you're welcome, TikToker. Hello, everyone. Hello, General Mosquito. How is UK? We hope you're doing good. Yeah. Well, have you seen a mosquito around?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's around.
Where?
General Mosquito on TikTok.
There's no mosquito in the house.
Yes.
It is on TikTok. Bwajja ng'obusiri bujja alinga njuki. Genda kuwalira. General Mosquito, you're welcome.
You're welcome on TikTok.
Okay, Lando, of course, Lando Rain. Maybe Lando is coming on TikTok or something. Lando, it has been long, by the way, since I heard from Lando. So Lando hardly comes on nowadays.
Sure?
When did you last see Lando? This week, Lando.
He was here on Tuesday.
No.
Lando. Was it Robert Williams?
Robert Williams and Chip Jam. Lando was never here. So please don't say that. Yeah, manya abeera mu bali. Kyambuza Bruce Crowley nga bagulu. Waliwo comment gye tutasomyeko.
Zonna zaati twazisomye.
INNOSSETU, peace to Brother B. Okay, we read all that.
So for me there is something that some other people don't give attention.
General Mosquito is asking that what's the topic today?
The topic.
Where is TikTok? You have scissors.
Go where. That's how when you're gonna sit on position. You want to stay on position.
Mogambe topic.
So, General Mosquito, the topic today is tribalism versus African unity. How tribalism has played a great role in dividing Africans, in making Africans not meet, Africans not to unite as one person. Anyways, I was saying, like there is something people like people don't give it attention. I don't know why. Like in Uganda, of course, we had the Bunyoro Chitala Empire. Like if an empire is big, we know that.
It's bigger
We
than
also had the kingdom, the Buganda kingdom, which had over three. At first, they had three what? Masaza three. How are they called? Masaza states or?
Yeah, let's call them that.
They states. So there were three at first. But we read in these books in education system, these people design, and it is true. Like these people, they expanded whatever they expanded to destroy the Bunyoro Chitala Empire. These other states they got. They are
Hi family, greetings and power to all. Hi INNOSSETU and Maria, greetings and peace to you both.
Peace
to you both. Thank you.
Maybe it is network problem because now saying hey to Jiba. Yeah, saying to Jiba. So the expansionist policy these people did from Ghana, which I think they were Bazungus, they were not Baganda, they were Bazungus doing that. They were doing it to Bunyoro Chitala Empire. All the states that Uganda has, they were got from that. And no one questions about that. No one like paints like bad to the Baganda for that.
Because first of all, the ones who
Sichuulira
are there,
I don't hear that thing sounding. I don't hear that thing sounding because of course. Eh,
ate olaba bagamba Mityana waliyo abantu kwatulangako empe miti gyali makumi aga emiti ago Luweero, it means olwezo. Chogola, there is fertile soils all over that place. All those names were named according. But of course, Auntie, the way they took this, and for them, when they were taking this land, the land was documented. The British assigned this land to them. They were going to come and take Mityana, this, we have given this to Uganda, we are giving Chiboga to Uganda, we are giving Luweero to Uganda, because
even
we are
Budu.
giving Budu to Uganda.
Bunyoro.
Yeah, so we are given all the things that we are given at that time was because these people connived. And as they were giving, a lot of people were displaced. A lot of people lost their lives. You guys don't get don't get to speak in your language. You have to settle.
There are certain things that are too emotional to be explained in English. Very well.
It also said there are certain things that are too emotional to be spoken in English. At times you feel like English does not emphasize. I'm going to speak in your language. Okay. Oh, that's what I'm doing.
By the way, that's why I always say that even they will understand.
Yeah.
So, because the states for this kingdom.
Let me first remind you. It was like I was having an argument with Mom. When was that? Like 3 weeks ago. What was she saying? I started. My mom, of course, she knows English. So I started speaking. She said, "Don't speak in English." She said, "Don't argue with me in English." Because when you argue in the local language,
you overemphasize.
So she wanted to start crying. What I say?
Things are big in the language.
Mom started saying, "Maria, you argue. Stop arguing in English. You argue in the local language, so that she can start saying." I said.
You know, English is so humble. It's so humble because you can say something weird in English and
someone may, it is very cunning.
Yeah,
English language is very cunning. You know, Africa is just so straight.
But when you use a Luga or any local
and that's why my
language,
mom, it will be so disrespectful.
Yeah.
So that's why my mom, when you're having issues, she will don't speak in English. Speak in a local language. I want to know exactly what to say. Say it. And at times you cannot say things. So you just have to avoid that. So I think that local language emphasizes on things a lot strongly. And that's why when you are quarreling with an African person, when they are pissed, at some point you will even see them speaking their language. They will forget that you even don't understand what they are saying. Yeah, so I guess you get them.
So I was saying that like the kingdom had, and this was not done in Uganda only, all African countries. So the natives, the Africans captured land on behalf of the British, on behalf of all colonizers, colonial masters.
True.
They could give them guns
to go and fight.
They could even back them directly, those British people, because of course during those days when those people fought and expanded what they call expansionist policy, whatever, expansionist policy of the Uganda, you see that You see, eh?
Direct.
You see, like during that time, it was during colonial period, and it, they used to give certain masters to lead a certain group of a colony, like to lead certain, like in Uganda, they could, or it was Sir Cohen, something of that kind. Cohen, who was leading, who was in charge of Buganda. So he was the one who was ordering these people to go and capture. On behalf of the British, so that to expand, because of course Bunyoro had rejected colonialism.
They had rejected colonialism. Actually, by the way, they didn't even sign the agreement that was putting them under the umbrella of Uganda as a country. So apparently these people, according, if at all we are to follow documentation, they are living their own region. They are not part of Uganda. They are just people who decide to say, let's have peace, probably, let's not try. And I think they are the only people who had the right to ask for federal. Yeah, apart from this very country that betrayed these people asking for federal, these are the people who needed a federal because they did not sign. There is nowhere. While they signed the agreement, they rejected, and throughout history, history does not. That means for these guys, they were not even colonized. They were not colonized by the British because they never accepted. They never agreed. This empire never did. But when you follow the books of history, they will tell you there are two countries in Africa. They will tell you that Ethiopia refused to be colonized. This very country, this very region is never talked about in the books of history. The region that refused, it refused to be colonized. They refused, no matter. Of course, we saw the British trying to massacre this entire tribe. Like, how come this tribe is rejecting, is refusing? So they wanted to kill them. They killed a lot of them to the point that some of them started changing their names to be safe, as though the majority refused. These people refused to be under, colonization. And unfortunately, they were forcefully put under the umbrella of Uganda as a country. So when we are to follow the real documentation, these people are not part of Uganda. Because for them, they did not agree, they did not sign the agreements. Remember, the British were making people sign treaties, sign agreements, and agree. They wanted this documented. These people refused. And actually, that's why we have the majority of these people from this particular empire being taken to Jamaica as slaves. The people from this particular empire being taken to UK as slaves, where even others, of course, were moved to the Caribbeans as slaves because they refused. They said, we can never sign treaties, and there is nowhere we can be under Mzungu's control. This is our land, so we cannot agree anybody to come and dictate. So a lot of them were killed. Like I was telling you, when these people were asking for reparation from UK, the minister at that time said, there is no documentation that you guys actually existed in Uganda. Most of you were massacred. He said this point blank. Then where are you coming from? So he said some of us were never massacred. A lot of us still existed. We are demanding for the identity of the children from that royal family who were taken to Jamaica. The children were taken to the Caribbean. The children were taken to UK. At the time, we demand their identity. We want to know where the princes were taken. They took a lot of people from the royal family of that empire. So the British people were like, we thought you guys don't exist. First of all, off record, you are not anywhere in the documentations of Uganda because you did not sign agreements that you are part of Uganda. They said, yes, we did not, because we did not agree with you colonizing us, but that did not take away the fact that we were people who were in that geographical area at that time. So the British wanted to wipe away that entire rebellious, group of people. The British wanted to wipe away the entire, and actually, if you follow the history now, actually, they are not sounding a lot. People don't, they are not respected. People don't even talk about them. Even the world probably doesn't know that this kind of kingdom was strong, and the history does not even talk about these people, except they are categorized by being hostile. They are being hostile people. That's how they categorize them. And Actually, at that time, they wanted that entire region to be the capital. Remember now, gold is found in that region. Oil is found in that region. There are a lot of minerals that are found in that region. But those people were very rebellious. They refused. If you look at the if at all you do the real geography, you will understand that these people are the center of Uganda. Actually, if I told you had to say that the central will be that, but they were never given that. You would say, because remember when people are seeing the eclipse, people come from various places. They come all over East Africa to come and see the eclipse from that very point. That means that is the center. But because these people rejected, they went ahead and they said Central Uganda is again, it's not in the center. If you look at the Central Uganda, it's not in the center. So at times I'm like, what? These people are they? What is central? Central cannot not be central. You cannot be in the south and you say this is central. You cannot be in the north and you start saying this is central. Central should be central. So apparently, you could see that everything the British were doing was so manipulative. They were manipulating even the obvious things. They were manipulating even things that you can see and even a young child can see. But because they thought probably we are so dumb, maybe Africans were so naive, you're bringing those vocabulary of Central, South, East, and whatever. You're bringing your compass and all stuff like that. That doesn't even work at all. But of course, you had gunpowder and guns. A lot of people had to bow down and kiss them asses. And at the end, actually, this is why we still have that division. If you look at the tribes come with the hierarchy. Tribalism comes with opportunity. Tribalism comes with exposure. Tribalism comes with the favorism. Tribalism comes with the segregation. Tribalism is accompanied with the hate for other people who don't probably speak or doesn't share the same tribe like you feel. Tribalism comes with a lot of negativity because I feel like tribalism is naive, stupidity, misinformation, uneducation. This is how I categorize this. Because if you're someone who is informed, educated, if you're someone who knows the real you and the real history, tribe is just a weapon that was created to destroy the Africans and preventing them from uniting. Tuweze zabidi dayo tulabe wabulayo ntono.
Currently in very many African countries.
Linda, Kotera Mosquito, please like our live on TikTok. Give us some good thumbs up.
So so currently, like you said that the countries in Africa, like we talk about that, actually rejected imperialism or colonialism in Africa. Talk about the Ethiopians. And you will see that these Ethiopians, they have low incidences of tribal fights and conflicts.
Now they have begun.
Just because of this influence, the influence of the Western world.
Ethiopians abamu bali mixed n'abebweru n'aba-Italians.
Because of course Italians, they tried to fight to make them and they failed. Ethiopians, many of 1935. So you see that all African countries, these people try to bring in their fucking kind of separatism, grabbing and demarcating lands. For those people that were like, we don't accept colonialism, but they like there is a way they painted them to these people. sometime I was online, I was live here and I asked you a question. Like, do you hear about do you hear about that certain tribes do certain things? That this tribe is known for this. Where do those things come from? Which take what is the genesis of all this propaganda that is spread? The other people they created it some time back that that tribe is known for this. Which take it because of course even during those days it was
separation identification, like to separate okitegeera nti bali be bano. For us we don't do that. Abakola ebyo beebo, you understand?
So that's how hatred is spread. That's how people try to identify themselves. We are Baganda, we are Igbo, we are what in Ghana the Waliyo Basanta and what.
Bali abo batya bakyafu. Abantu b'Uganda bakyafu.
Yeah.
Oh, balinga bateesa.
And so they try to like
Mazomba categorizing.
no, for me I think it is propaganda.
Abimu biba bituufu. Kati gw'omanyi abana baba bakyafu. N'abateeso. Bane tusobola kusanga muteeso mulungi n'abaganda. Si bakyafu nnyo, they are moderate.
Bakyabasinga obuyonjo.
Ndowooza naye ate mwana. Bwenda wali wamu waliyo abakyafu. Naye waliwo ekisukka.
That is propaganda.
No, waliwo
It's
ekisukka.
propaganda.
We have moved abantu. Naye waliwo ekisukka.
Maybe you have visited our village areas.
You have areas.
Like village areas. You know people in the village. You know that you can find a woman.
Omuli different ennimi za njawulo, different culture. So I have lived among many cultures in Uganda. And this is what, of course, that's why I can speak apparently very many Ugandan languages, because I've lived in different people. So, nze mbalaba abantu. We shall go to Suluti, ojja kutya. Bino ebintu biba bituufu ebimu.
Which people are in Soluti?
Bateeso. Kale abantu b'omu byalo batendinga okubadda ati not that baba bakyafu. Kati oba lwakuba baba beekwese. Omanyi omuntu oba olina omuntu akulaba. It's like nze nga ndi nzekka. There are other things that someone can do. Let me choose a topic. Usually, people do, like I told you, people are categorized with a specific. You look at most of some barbaric cultures that are being, of course, carried on in Africa. All these barbaric things that are being participated were things that were done unto these people by the colonial masters. You see, but people still continue to do these things because they used to identify. First of all, there are some piercing. Let me give you an example. An African they used not to put marks on their bodies, like I'm cutting myself. But I don't usually love to debate about people's culture, but throughout history, you'd find that any cut that was put on you was not a human cut. No human was that cut yourself. If it's going to be a heroic cut, it should be received. Maybe you are either fighting with an animal, maybe it has come to harm people, and that animal scratches you. That cut will always be remembered. So you find some other people who want to imitate, you have fought with something, they are cutting themselves. And some other people will say when someone is a strong warrior, when you fight and win, Why should you fight and win and then cut yourself?
They give you.
Let the wind cut you.
We even have some fighters in Uganda. They had to remove their eyes so that.
We had some people who had to remove their eyes to show that we were fighting, so my eyes were out. Let the action do. Let the act do the action. Now that was African culture. I'm sorry. At times, when I'm like talking to people on different platforms, they feel like I'm trying to attack them. But at times, this is just the truth. You see, so other people usually had it. Other people had those cards to identify that the colonialists used those things to identify specific tribes. You see, they would identify them. One, if it's like when they had to put stamps on slaves, like when they buy you, they put a hot metal on you to show that this one is a slave who is bought, or this slave is what they will tattoo you. Yes, the same thing was happening in Africa. The moment they would sell you, because they also had people who would work for them, they would put labels on those people. Now, for me, at times, it's so painful that some people think it is part of their culture to label themselves willingly, a colonial master's label that you are carrying as a legacy. You proudly do the things to your body, and you say, I'm identifying my tribe like this, because you are miseducated. You're misinformed. You don't really know what happened. You don't know that all these things that were put to you, the things you are putting on yourself, were things that were put on your forefathers by the slave or the colonial masters to identify you as. They were so barbaric to the Africans, by the way, at that time. Like I said, there is no way someone would say, I'm having three cuts at my forehead to show that I killed a lion. So I'm cutting one. I killed 2 lions. I'm cutting 2. The lion will kill you. You cannot go to fight with the lion and come scot-free. We do not have weapons. Black men were fighting like the Samson of the what? The Bible.
Samson.
I don't know. Forget Daniel. Daniel wamusura y'obusuuzi. Oli eyanyiga lion empologoma mu Bible teyali Samson ow'amaanyi. Yali. So so these people used you cannot fight with an animal and not have a scratch and not have this animal label you. So you don't need to cut yourself to show people that I killed, except that you could kill something and take away its tooth and wear it or around your neck to show that you're a warrior and you killed something. You remove it, the longest tooth if it was an animal. But there is no way, but people still do that. At times they could even hold some people by the ears. They pierce very long holes in their ears. They tie one person to another, and I don't know. So when these people came Namatuga with those holes, they started creating their own small community. After being, of course, thrown out of their geographical areas by those people who betrayed them, they created their small circle. Of course, they had the holes now. Instead of breaking the chain and breaking their children free from the holes that were created in their ears by their colonial masters, they also gave the holes to their children. They started, whenever they could produce the child, they put the holes in their ears because they want to identify themselves. But because we are the tribe now, we have gathered ourselves together. So what should we do? We have holes. We definitely have to have holes. The children have to have holes in their ears. And until now, and what is funny is when you find them, so you try to say, yeah, how can you be having those holes around you, whatever? They don't know that the ones who did these things.
And stupidly, some people like they categorize themselves as tribes. You find they say INNOSSETU is going to be a warrior that is going to fight thick animals, big animals. So they create a mark for you, or at the back, or at legs, so that you can be identified and your specific role in
Is to do that.
is to do that. So they categorize you. Maybe they cut your nose. Maybe they cut your mouth.
Yeah, using as an example, Chembani.
No, not you. Are you man? Fighting is not for
No, but
me.
you're using an example kusala enyindo.
Eh,
Enyindo tebagisalangayo mulwanyi anasa.
Have you ever seen someone is not cut? It was cut. It is having a big
Ebisolo
hole.
byayuzanga.
No, these people. Babysala now. Yes, that's how. No, that's how they
Ate
categorize
abatwe
it.
babagamba ebisolo byabayuzanga.
Ku mulembe guno, where do you find lions?
Ate
Like people fighting
kyekugamba
lions.
nti ku mulembe guno
Mm.
people but they're imitating the wrong things. Kyekugamba nti kati if you are going to fight with a lion watyanga eddukirayo bakusala batya omusale nga bukyali
Mm.
before.
What you were
Maria,
saying.
can you slow down a little so we can hear what you are saying? Talina magezi oyo yanta. Buli kaseera abeera anoonya complaints byayita omumanyi. Ne wowe oyogere kintu wali omulabeko ng'akomentinga abeera mu complaininga.
Wano auto tugende.
All right, thank you guys for loving and supporting Black Hot Fire Network. Of course, we are ending our show right here. It is 10 minutes past 10 p.m. here in Kampala, Uganda. Thank you so much for those who have, of course, followed us on TikTok and also watching us on TikTok, and also those who are watching us from YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you so much. It has been me, Africa Maria, with my colleague
INNOSSETU.
We are looking forward to, of course, seeing you tomorrow, guys. Thank you so much. We're out of here and have a blessed day.
Yeah, land has something else. Or destruction of civilization breeds tribalism, barbarism,
Savagery, violence, and all acts of warfare.
Produce tribalism. True.
That's a comment from Lando. Lando, thank you for that great comment.
So Keith is saying that I don't have to go home. Well, of course, not going home now. All things are settled. No, yeah. All things are settled. Not going home. So Jed the Mosquito says, what time tomorrow? I never know what time, Jed. Oh, okay. Of course, we shall be here from 10, I think. From 10, the first segment will be from 10, then the second segment will be around any time of the day.
Gets ready.
Yeah.
So today we were supposed to, of course, our power went off on our first segment. So we of course had to broadcast for 2 hours because our power went off today. So tomorrow we are still going to come back early and see. We're going to start like at 10 a.m. our time, and yeah.
But thank you for those that have been on TikTok. Jenna Mosquito, thank you so much for those great comments. And of course, Mr. Black Hot Fire. Stay there, I gotta take TikTok.